Hi everyone, I'm Mel and welcome to the Money Auntie. Did you know that the smallest habit changes can have some big long-term impacts, and that includes your finances? In today's video, I'm going to share 5 habits that I started doing consistently this year that has really changed my mindset and relationship with money. Make sure you stay until the end of the video where I share a 6th habit that is not directly money related, but it has really changed the course of my financial habits. Let's dive right in and make sure you comment below which of these habits you already do or share something I haven't mentioned that's working for you. The first habit is to avoid lifestyle creep. It's very common when people get a raise or a promotion that their lifestyles also get a raise. Often they don't leave very much room for savings or investing or even paying down some debt. When I was younger, I would get so excited every time I got a pay increase or a promotion because it would mean that I have more money to play around with. It meant more tech gadgets or more weekend getaways, or I could foot the bill at a fancy restaurant with my friends. In other words, my lifestyle got grander with every pay increase that I got. It rarely ever meant putting a little more into my 401k or paying down my credit card bill, which ultimately got me into a lot of trouble. Now, more recently, I started doing something that is counter what I traditionally did whenever I got a pay increase. I made a conscious decision to put most, if not all, of that added income into my savings and investing. Pro tip number 1. The next time you get a raise, decide right off the bat how much of that you're going to add to your expenses. Say 25% of the added income and put away the rest. Now, mind you, this is much easier said than done. I've tried doing this so many times with very little success, but that's where habit number 2 comes in. Automate where you can. Making the conscious decision not to spend my extra income wasn't enough. It was too much temptation knowing that extra money was sitting in my checking account. I can't tell you how many times I told myself, just this one shopping trip, it's on sale. And before I knew it, my extra income had magically turned into fine Italian leather boots. I had to make sure that my extra income never even made it into my expense account. So what I ended up doing was setting up automatic direct deposits. It forced me to keep my expenses relatively unchanged while starting to save up for things like my rainy day fund. The money that I don't see, I don't miss. These days, I'm often pleasantly surprised when I open up my bank account and see that my little nest egg is growing. For some of us Gen Xers or geriatric millennials who still write checks with duplicate copies or even know what a checkbook is, step into 2023 with me and find out other ways that you can automate. Many 401ks through employers will automatically withdraw your funds every pay period, but if you have investment accounts outside of your 401k, you can automate those too. If you have a financial advisor, work with them to withdraw a certain amount in the frequency that you're most comfortable with. If you do investing on your own, check if the platform that you use will allow you to automate your investing as well. Pro tip number 2. Make sure the payments that you automate have relatively fixed costs, like subscriptions or some utilities. Otherwise, you might be surprised to see some months when it peaks and you don't expect it. I kind of touched upon habit number 3 a little bit, which is to have separate accounts. These days, I have 3 accounts, one for my savings, one for my checking, and one for my investments. Ideally, your expenses would be with a regular checking account where you would have the most easy access through ATMs, debit cards, or checkbooks. Your savings should be in a checking or savings account that may or may not be linked to your expenses account, but it should still be relatively accessible in case of an emergency. And finally, your investments account should be in a 3rd separate account that is much harder to get to than your savings or your expenses. For me, I went as far as opening one of my accounts in a completely different bank to minimize the temptation of transferring my money from one account to the other. I also started using a platform called Webull for investing in index funds and stocks. Every month, it automatically transfers a fixed amount from my investments bank account into my Webull account. It sits in their high-yield savings account. Then every quarter, it invests whatever is in my pool into my selected portfolio, regardless of what the share price is at that time. This investment strategy is called dollar cost averaging, and I'll talk more about this in a future video. Pro tip: find a bank and an account where you're not charged any fees for transactions or minimum balance requirements. Now, habit number 4 is a roundabout way of saying follow a budget. I have had a budget since my early 20s when my mom drilled it into our brains about how important it was to have one. But I was not very successful at keeping my budget because I would go for periods at a time when I wouldn't even look at it for 6 months. And by the time I'd go back and check it again, I'd gone off the rails and I'd just give up. And then the new year would come around and New Year's resolutions would start and I'd get back on the budget again. And it was a very vicious cycle. Part of it was I didn't have a budget system that was easy to maintain or that I even liked to do, so it was a chore to keep track of my income and my expenses. This year, I made a commitment to find a budgeting method that I liked, and more importantly, to review it regularly, every 1 to 2 weeks to be more precise. Telling my money where to go and reviewing where it went every few days kept me accountable. Pro tip. Here's the big secret about budgets. You have to have a system that works for you. Some people use budgeting apps like Every Dollar from Dave Ramsey or the Clever Fox budgeting planner that I mentioned in another video. For me, I use a template that I created on Excel. Excel is one of my love languages, so for most people, my budgeting methods will probably drive them to poke their eyes out, but it gives me no greater pleasure than to see that my conditional formatting works every 2 weeks when I check it, and my budget is on track. Habit number 5, evaluate unnecessary spending. I'm not going to lie, this one hurt because it caused me to evaluate my priorities. The other habits require more logical, concrete thinking, whereas this one requires more introspection and emotional decision making. For me, I don't know which hurt more, to realize how much money I was throwing away or to make the decision to cut out some of the things that I was spending on that I didn't really need in my life. Now, this one works best if you have a good grasp of your income and your spending, which is why habit number 4, tracking your income and your expenses, is so critical. Pro tip, ease into it. For example, you might find it hard to give up that super premium cable subscription with 1,000 channels, even though you only watch 10 of them regularly. The 2190 rule states that it takes 21 days to make a habit and 90 days to make it a permanent lifestyle change. Instead of canceling your premium cable subscription entirely, try downgrading for a month and see if you can live without all the bells and whistles. Continue to shave it down until you find your point of non-negotiable. If you find that after 3 months you don't even miss the 990 channels, by all means cancel the premium subscription and stick to the ones with the channels that you actually use. The final habit is walking. Now you're probably thinking, what does walking have to do with money? Well, directly, probably not a whole lot. But for me, walking became a keystone habit, one that I adopted over a year ago to start improving my health. I committed to 30 minutes every single day. In Charles Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit, he says that keystone habits are small changes or habits that people introduce into their routines that unintentionally carry over into other aspects of their lives. Walking 30 minutes a day started out really hard at first because it wasn't something that came naturally to me. But over time, it became easier and it was actually something that I craved. And as I started feeling good, I also started making better eating choices. And all that positive change made me hopeful that if I can do all these things that I thought were hard, then I can do anything. So I started managing my money better until that also became a habit. My pro tip, I know this sounds like a stretch, but really start thinking about developing a keystone habit. And it doesn't have to be walking, although walking does have some inherent benefits that may impact your finances indirectly. The point is to find a habit that you can start developing so that your brain begins to recognize and crave success. Hopefully, other areas in your life will soon follow suit. So those are the 5 habits plus 1 that have changed my mindset and relationship with money. If you want to try developing these habits and would like a visual to help you remember them, check out my description below for a link to download this free graphic that summarizes them. If you found value in today's video, make sure you hit that like button, share this video with a friend, and subscribe to my channel. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you comment below to share other habits that have changed your money mindset. I'd love to hear from you. Until the next video, be kind and make smart choices.